Hello, this is Deep Sky Blue for DIYAllDay.com. We're continuing our custom system assembly here today. Down in front of us here we have the case that we've been working on. In our first couple videos we've got the first four components in here: power supply, motherboard, hard drive, optical drive. What we're looking at now, basically two per video here. I had talked about doing the processor in the last one and figured we'd throw the RAM in too while we were in there. The processor installation, up till now everything has just been screwing stuff into the case with a screwdriver. This is going to be just a little bit different, but still extremely simple. So I have here, and I've already taken it out of the box, this is an AMD Phenom 2 what is it, 555 I believe, which is one of the processors I actually mentioned in my comparison chart that has a very good bench score for its price. So there is some division here between if you did go with Intel for your processor order versus AMD, and I'll get into that a little bit here as we get going. First step that we have here, you want to locate the socket for the processor on the motherboard. That's this large area with all the little holes on it on an AMD. Now on an Intel, and I can kind of illustrate the difference here for you. I want to be careful handling these and try not to make direct contact with the pins on the bottom. On an AMD processor, you see all these little pins sticking up here. Now Intel, a while back, decided that rather than have them on the processor, they would prefer to have them right in the socket. So if you're working on an Intel system, it's all going to be pinless. But same basic concept. It's opening up the socket, locking the putting the processor in, and then locking it into place. So we'll go ahead here, and I'm just going to lift this little metal lever here. This is used to just unlock and lock the socket into place. If you do take a look at this here, you're going to see that there's a couple notches just in the bottom of the right on the socket there where there's no pins, and those are going to correspond to where there's no pins on the processor. Also, you'll see a little triangle over here, kind of a cheat basically, and there's a little triangle right over here on the side of the socket. So without stressing to look at all those pins, you can just use that triangle to guide you. And I didn't apply any pressure there. That just dropped right in, and you wouldn't want to, because bent pins are no fun to deal with. So now that I do have the processor in there, I'm just going to lock it back down into place. There we are. Now the next step is going to be optional. Like I bought the retail package. When I took this out of the box, it had a little square of thermal compound on there. And that's approved by AMD. It's their own thermal compound. Absolutely nothing wrong with using that. But since I've been building computers, I've always just gotten into the habit of scraping that off using a premium compound. I have here some Arctic Silver. Compared to a stock compound, this will actually make your system run a few degrees cooler. It is a premium compound. Mostly the people who care about that are the overclockers, and I'm not an overclocker, but this has just been the way I've done things here since the beginning. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to apply a very thin layer of thermal compound right onto the top of the processor here. So it comes in a little syringe here, so you just push the plunger down. The main area there is the middle. I'm actually going to be covering the entire top of the processor here, which is a little more than what you need. If you look at the stock application, it's mostly focused in the middle there where the cores are. What this stuff is for, I just have an old card here that I'm using. What this stuff is for, it's to help with the thermal transfer as the processor is running, it generates heat. So, quite a lot of heat actually. So the solution they came up with is heat sinks, fans, and thermal compound to help dissipate some of that heat from the processor. Just getting that all on there nice and fairly even. It's you know, if it's not perfect, it certainly doesn't have to be. But you will want to make sure that you get the whole area covered, and definitely the area right in the middle there where the cores are. Almost done there. Just got a little spot on the edge there, a little bit over here. I think I'm gonna get just another little squirt in there on the side. So pretty basic stuff here. This can be a little messy. Wash your hands after you get done, or wear gloves when you're using it. Like most stuff, you know, that you're using for this stuff, I mean, it can be irritant to the skin. I don't myself wear gloves, but if you don't, I mean, if you get any on your hands, you definitely want to just wash it off after you get finished. There we are. And then I have a paper towel here. I'm just going to wipe a little extra residue off of the sides there. Just a little extra residue there. Okay, there we are. So nice, you know, fairly even layer of thermal compound on there. Now we can go ahead and get the heat sink on. These processors back in the day when I started used to run a lot hotter than they do, and they just had these tremendous, massive heat sinks. They're running cooler today, and you see, I mean, not a lot of fins on this. It's just a straight piece of aluminum with a fairly small fan on top of it. Unless you're intending to do overclocking, stock fan works great. You can even overclock a little with the stock fan and stock thermal compound, but if you're really trying to crank it up there, an aftermarket is going to be a good idea. So around the processor here, we have a couple mounting plates. These hook onto this. Let's see here. Just trying to figure out which end is which here. On this particular one, I guess, you know, they may be interchangeable here. The big thing, you know, you want it to be lined up the center of the fan with the center of your core, and it looks like these are about even here. So just getting the first end on here, just attaching this, and then the locking end of it is going to be over here. Just this is one thing that a lot of times, I mean, you don't have to put a lot of pressure on parts to get them in. Heatsink traditionally requires a little bit to get it locked into place there. Okay, just get the other on the other clip there. Okay, and kind of move that around on there. Make sure we have a nice tight seal against the heatsink and the processor, and then just finger lock is all that's on here. Just a little lever that you flip over to lock it in tight and hold it down. So that's on there quite securely, just around the two clips here on the side. Extremely important step, hooking up the CPU fan. Some boards have a fail-safe where it won't even power on. So when you get your system together, if it's not, this could be the culprit from a fail-safe. Not all boards have that fail-safe, and your system will overheat. May only take a half an hour before you've fried your processor or possibly your motherboard. So this is definitely important to get hooked up. This is going to help keep your system cool. And you'll see, probably can't see it on the camera here, but all of these little fan ports are labeled. There's one that's specifically labeled for the CPU fan, and that's the one that you want to use. Another thing, you know, if your system's not starting, is it hooked up to the right fan connector? Because with that fail-safe, if you had it hooked up to another one, even though it's hooked up, your system's not going to start. So have the processor in. That was mega simple. RAM is going to be even easier. Have a couple sticks of G.Skill here. These are 4 gigs a piece here, so I'm running an 8 gig setup here in this computer. Just going to pull it out of the little clips in the side there. Now, this is something that there is a wrong way to do here. You want to consult your motherboard manual. Usually motherboards have a preference as to which slots you put them into first. Also, modern memory runs in dual channel mode. The newest Intel socket actually runs in triple channel mode. So like on this AMD board here, these are paired, but how are they paired? You'll want to look into the motherboard to find out. And in this particular one, there's a little diagram here. It tells you which slots to put them into. If you're running 2 modules, you put it in slot 1, slot 2, and those are going to be labeled on the board here as well. So we have, let's see, the labels are right there, and they're also labeled right in the picture here. So if we're putting it in 2 and 3, this is the exact way that I'm facing it here. I'm going to be using these 2 white slots here. To open the RAM slot, just little plastic pieces that push down here. And then when you push it in, they'll automatically lock up and grab the RAM from the holders here. So we'll get the first one in. There's a tooth here, so you'll want to make sure that that corresponds. So you're not trying to push it in the wrong way there, because it's only going to fit in the correct way, thanks to that that little notch that they have in there. So installing the first piece here, just a little bit of a firm push. Doesn't take a whole lot. Yep, and you can hear it click as it comes in. I don't have that side in quite all the way. And you'll be able to see that those little holders just snap right up to grip onto it, so that's how you can tell it's all the way in. Another thing, and we're going to cover some troubleshooting in a future article, but another thing that can cause your system not to post after you get it all together if you have one of these that's not completely pushed in. So okay, so getting it in the second white slot here, making sure that I have it in correctly. And just a little push there to get it in. Okay, there we are, and both of those just clicked right up to hold it into place. So that's everything. Again, here, although we're not even working with a screwdriver here, just our hands, using actually some paste here, which is totally an optional step. You can absolutely use the stock stuff on there if you want to, but very, very simple stuff here as far as getting these components in. So thank you for joining us, and again, this is Deep Sky Blue for DIYAllday.com.